Hi everybody, standing in front of my favourite piece of memorabilia from IC17, which has every player, coach and team manager involved in that memorable victory. And would love to have more put on my wall if I can find wall space, so let's train hard and see what we can do next year. As far as camps involved, we're getting some good numbers. Registrations are still coming through. A reminder that that closes at the end of July, so if you haven't registered yet, please get onto that. We made a decision to change it from invite only to open invitation. That was for two main reasons. One, we wanted the camp to be as much about developing future talent as just around selection. And when we spoke to local coaches and asked them to put forward their list of names to be invited, they were hesitant to close it off on, especially on some of the new rookies that will develop over the next 7 or 8 weeks. So that sort of had us going, let's not risk missing an opportunity to select somebody by excluding them weeks ago. Let's open it up. So that's what we've done. As far as selection's concerned, just a reminder that AFL Canada is still considering whether the Suns take up the invitation to go to IC. One of the factors will be how many players we've got going to camp and how many players we've got available to go to Australia. At this stage, it's less likely based on numbers, but we've still got a couple of weeks to go. So if you're considering at the moment, we'd like you to register. Keep training with a view of pushing yourself forward for light selection in the case that they decide not to send the Suns. As far as selection is concerned, I wanted to let you know how to play out. We'll have a selector from each province and myself at selection, so there'll be 5. The selectors will most likely be a coach from that area that's on the national panel, and we're more than likely to have one of our leaders, one of our captains from the Northern Lights as a selector as well. Each selector from each province will collate information on each available player, on match form, training attendance and form, fitness and skills testing, commitment to footy and just overall contribution to their club, and they'll bring that information to selection. It's important to me that local coaches have a voice in putting forward a player and equally indicating that a player may not have made the commitment required to earn selection. Those local coaches need to have that voice. So I wanted to be clear that while I ultimately do have the final say, if the consensus is a player should be selected, I'll be looking to support our local coaches and provincial reps around that selection. While we all have our differences in how we coach, the one thing we have in common is that we want you to be able to succeed. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our coaches around the country. Getting volunteers for any sport's hard, in particular for Aussie rules, and then for women's Aussie rules, they're a rare breed and we don't have a lot of them. We still have some teams that don't have a coach. So I just want to thank them for their commitment, and whilst there's 100 ways of coaching and we don't always agree on how to coach, I've said from day one, anything that I'm involved in won't be perfect. I'll make mistakes, just like players make mistakes, and we need to support each other through that. I just ask you to, this week, show your gratitude towards your coach. They take a lot of time out from their family, friends. They could choose to take the time elsewhere, but the number one reason when I speak to coaches about why they do it, because it's not an easy job, you can never please everybody, it's because they enjoy seeing players succeed at varying levels, whether it's a rookie learning to kick for the first time or whether it's somebody getting their national jersey for the first time. It gives a coach a buzz. So it's important that you show your gratitude to them. One of our Northern Lights values is respecting our teammates, respecting umpires, and most importantly respecting our coaches. So really want to make sure that as whether it's you're a current light or a future light, that we show that love for our coach, because they're a really important part of the journey over the next 12 months, and in particular the next 7 or 8 weeks whilst you try and get yourself selected. With only 7 weeks to go, it's important to work hard, and in particular with your local coach having a say in who gets selected, you might want to buy them a gift and take along to training this week. Every little bit helps. Wanted to finish on the Steve Bradbury story, and I'll upload a link to the Northern Lights Facebook page. Those who aren't familiar with the Stephen Bradbury story, he wasn't even going to the Olympics, and he was hopeful of maybe getting a top 10 finish. He ended up making the semi-finals because a couple of skaters fell in front of him in the final. Many of you have seen the story where they all fell over and ended up winning a gold medal. So my message to you is that if you're sitting there going along to the camp thinking that you're going along to develop and you may not be a chance of selection, or you're someone who's on the fringe and you're really deep in your heart don't think you're going to get selected, I encourage you to have different thoughts in your mind and dare to dream, work hard, you just never know what's going to happen. And one thing that we're very committed to is players that are committed to footy. So as a starting point, if you're committed to footy and you work hard unsupervised and the numbers start to reflect that, and you know how to play the game, you're a really good chance as a starting point. So 7 weeks to go, looking forward to seeing you at camp. If you've got any questions, flick them through. Take care.